of the Port Severn Committee, and Diane Waterman, who's chairperson of the Sustainability and Grants Committee. And actually, they're going to do the
computers, DVDs, printers, scanners, and audiobooks for all. The need to move the main library to Port Severn is due to the fact that more people are moving up and down this main corridor, and they will be able to access it more easily. There seems to be a declining population in Honey Harbor, so of course, that would be used as a satellite office with less hours.
Thanks, Susan. As Susan indicated, the board really feels that the library is more than just books. We want it to be a gathering place for people to come. And we conducted a survey in the fall, which basically shows the good news is most people were really happy with the library. Everybody hear me okay? But we really want to do more programs and have more extended hours. As the board, we're looking for, they wanted to have more programs and extended hours was sort of the result of the survey. As a board, we're looking at offering more programs to residents, and one of the things, especially involving our seniors and our students. For example, one of the ideas was to facilitate study sessions around exam times for students when they come in and be matched with a resident, possibly a retiree who can help with tutoring or even mentoring. There's a vast source of knowledge and experience with our seniors that would be a tremendous benefit to our students and also to our seniors in return. It would get them engaged with the community and I think try and bring everybody together. And we also like to offer various courses and seminars to all of our residents. So our library really needs to evolve to be more of a gathering place and more of a place where people can network. One of the major setbacks that we have in offering these programs is that the current library hours do not accommodate students or even those working full-time. As a board, we're going to be looking at shifting hours and or adding hours so that the entire demography of the township could avail themselves of these opportunities. Closing at 4 p.m. on weekdays rules out a large part of our community, people that are working or students. We also know that the Port Severn Library, with very limited hours, has an excellent number of visitors, especially in the summer months. And it is becoming apparent that Port Severn is the best location for the main branch, as Susan indicated. We understand that Council is considering the Brissett House as a possible relocation of our current library. The location is absolutely perfect for us due to the high visibility that place has and also the high traffic in the immediate area. However, we do have a concern with the size, and while we understand that the building is not designated as historical, it is very important that the building should be expanded to meet our future needs. But we do not know if this is still feasible or if it's still even on the table. We wanted to open the communications between the library and council to make sure that you're all aware of our long-term goals and plans. The board is going to be participating in our 4-year strategic planning session early in the new year to formalize our goals. So we welcome any comments or suggestions especially before our planning session, so that they can be incorporated. Again, we're not asking for any decisions, but rather we wanted to make sure we have open communication, especially when moving the library would have a large impact on our plans. What we want to make sure is that we're not off in one area doing our strategic plan and you guys are not considering, the buildings and moving stuff. We need to be talking together just to make sure we're making the most effective use of our time. So that's all I need to say. Anybody have any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Diane. Susan, Laurie, I know the word is out there about the Brissett House. Are you conversing with?
Yeah, we had a meeting before they came to present the government.
Okay. So it's work in progress at this point.
Yeah.
It hasn't really hit our table, other than we're aware of the potential. So.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of it, or that we were involved in the communication.
That's not a problem. So I know the idea of having the head office in Port Severn has been at the library board for a long, long time at this point. Honey Harbor is a real busy spot in the summertime. a seasonal population that goes back to Toronto or wherever they're from. The number of hours you need down there are not near as much, but
And everybody that kind of goes to Honey Harbor is going to be driving 5 or 7. We're finding that especially for
so there are other pieces of property around for a library also. If we ever got a grant such as we did up in Mactier, Barb can fill you in as to how that all evolved. And we were very lucky to get $500,000 for that library. It's a beautiful spot, that's for sure.
But we love the location of Mactier. That couldn't be better to be right by the touch of Canada. We were on Thursday in the summer. Completely.
You're thinking of the Tim Hortons, I know. It is a good location, and there's a path all the way up to it. Yeah. So, thank you very much for presenting. Any council questions at this point?
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks for keeping us informed. Adoption of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Douglas, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Be resolved that committee of the whole adopts the agenda of November 15, 2016 meeting as amended or circulated. Any suggestions for amendment? Seeing none, it will read as circulated. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. So our first item is the Honey Harbor Waterfront Plan update. Kathy is the local councilor there. She's asked us to defer it if possible, but Laura, did you have anything to say about it at all at this point, or?
It can certainly be deferred, Your Worship. The one question that I would ask is for some staff direction. So part of the report talks about, we have an outstanding shore road allowance application before council, which council has deferred while waiting for the, funding or not funding as it turned out for the plan. So we had planned to bring that application back in December, but it would be December council, and if you defer this, it wouldn't be till December Cal. So I wouldn't want to bring the order Delaware back in December and have you say, we want to talk about the plan first. So if you prefer that we not bring him till January, he's anxious to get going. It's a chicken and the egg, but we put him off a number of times, so when we bring him back the next time, it would be best that council decides whether the decision is a yes or a no. I just want to make sure I got him lined up in the right time.
Okay. Rob?
Well, the one concern, it would be nice to have some idea where we're going with, what the result is going to be of this request to have the schools continue on, because that obviously impacts the hamlet significantly as to what it's going to be doing, et cetera. So that's my only comment, is it would be nice to know where we're at with that aspect, because if the schools close, we all know that it's going to be very much that people will continue to leave town.
Lori?
So I would agree, that's what my report says, is that perhaps council wants to wait on decisions on what we're going to do in Honey Harbor for that event. My question on the table right now is, when do I bring the owner back from the Delaware to talk about a shore allowance? It's separate, but it's a connected item. So that's my question.
Cynthia?
Thank you. I personally think that, I mean, the shore allowance is actually attached to the Delaware property, if I'm not mistaken. In order to access that, you have to pass through the private property. Can you clarify that?
I'm going to leave that to the complicated one.
There is a small triangle of privately owned land that you would have to cross over in order to access the shore allowance, whether it was docks from the plan or anything else.
So we can't really use them. So my feeling is from, having met with Mr. Conrad, just to look around the property and so on, I really think that he is being very generous and being willing to be a partner in the community. And I think that I think he's a little disillusioned at the moment. I think we'd be at risk of losing our partner there if we don't allow him to move on with his property. And I, for one, think that we should allow him to commit, and we should be considering selling that shore road allowance to him. I think that he would be interested in partnering with us and speaking with staff about putting some sort of agreement together where it's available to the public to use and have that registered the property. I'm sure that he would be willing to do that in order to move forward with his plans. I just think he's been held in limbo for a long time. Although, that's been for a good reason. But we now know where we're at. At least we should let him move forward with his own property, is my opinion.
Well, to put us all on the same page, and maybe explain where this road allowance is. I think I know what it is, but no one's actually saying what it is.
The southern C.O.W shore allowance, where the Honey Harbor waterfront plan would have been.
The road itself, okay, that wasn't clear.
I thought it was just a portion of the road allowance.
That is what he was going to apply to purchase if the Honey Harbor waterfront plan was successful. But now he would like to purchase the entire portion.
Well, my opinion is there's too much going on down there at this point and it's council's decision whether we sell it at all or not. We're not obligated to sell any shore allowance to people, but I think we need to blend everything together here, so we need to have the discussion about the waterfront plan. We need the school information involved, and selling the shore road allowance isn't really going to affect anything. The buildings are there, the septics are there currently, and it's not holding him up, so to speak, and that sort of thing. If he needs a new septic system or something, we can certainly work around that. My opinion is just put everything on hold for the time being until we sort out this other stuff. So, Peter?
I completely agree with you. I think that we are in limbo a little bit at the moment, and as much as I'm sympathetic with the owner of the Delawana, I think we need to be very careful as to moving forward when we're in limbo and putting the chicken before the egg or vice versa. So anyway, I concur with you.
A question. As Conrad said, he wants to get this done ASAP. I would have thought the man's quite reasonable and would understand our concerns. I mean, we're making the assumption he's hot to trot on this, is he?
Sorry?
He's definitely been patient. I think his application is probably 2 years old. Will he not be a partner? I know he's been very reasonable. You're right. Is he anxious to get going? Yes. But as the mayor said, it's council's decision whether you sell it or not. And I'm not asking you to make that decision today. And my question really was, we had intended to bring that in December. We thought we were having a discussion today, and then we would bring the discussion, the shore road application back in December. But I don't want to bring it prematurely. So if the consensus is you want to talk about the plan first, and we hold off till that's fine. I just need to know. I don't want to bring them and
Well, could we at least ask the man if he understands our situation? I have a bad feeling that if he pushes, he may not get the answer he wants. And I would have thought he understands, the conundrum we're in with so many things occurring with regard to the place. So could we at least ask him before we make the assumption that he wants to do this immediately?
You and I can meet with them.
Yeah.
Your worship, I'm not making any assumptions. I've had many discussions with Adrian, and I know Councilor Douglas has just met with him recently, and is nodding when I'm saying he would like to go forward. And he's been a great partner, and he probably won't push that hard, but that's not to say that he doesn't want to as I say, it's just a question of timing, so it doesn't sound like December is the time.
If we are got this whole program on hold, maybe for the school issue, do we have any idea when that issue might be resolved? And, will it be resolved by next spring, something like that? Or do we have any approximate date that's when the school issue will be resolved?
I'm thinking, April.
Yeah, through your worship, the mayor and the area councillor and I met with one of the school boards, I lost track of which one it was, the Catholic one, right? And their report, I would say, is going in February, and if their schools are closed, they're going to close in June, so we're going to know what the decision is one way or another for sure. It's not a 5-year plan, they're making a decision this winter.
So we would have, basically, we'd put this off about maybe 6 to 7 months, or something like that, so we could probably make some decisions in the spring of 2017. And maybe that would help him anyway, at least he knows that things move ahead sometime in late spring.
Cynthia?
My understanding is there's a couple of different issues on that particular property for him to go ahead with shore allowances and road allowances, which is holding things in limbo for him. Is there some way of pulling the meeting together so you can just, I know you've already met with him several times, but my understanding is he is a very willing partner to still work with the township in putting agreements in place, but he just wants to move forward with his own project. Fair enough. The buildings are in huge disrepair because they've not been started. And I know he has an unbelievable amount of vandalism going on right now. And I think part and parcel is because he's in limbo. And now that we know that we do not have the funding coming in place, I'm not so sure that it would be fair to him or even prudent on our part, because we have such a willing partner, to leave him in limbo for another 6 months without having some sort of discussion with him as to where he wants to go. I really get the sense he's very frustrated right now and has been really patient. And I would just hate to see us lose such a great partner, because I think he is a great partner for the community.
I think, Cynthia, we heard Larry say that he and Lori are going to meet with the man. So, I mean, I understand your concerns, but let's find out from the man himself, does he want to risk having it turned down or not knowing what's going to happen by, you can obviously put in his request to have it earlier, but I think the first thing needs to happen is for the mayor and Lori to meet. I think we're making assumptions otherwise. I think that that's quite reasonable. And it would also be nice to hear what his plans are as to why he wants the shore road allowance. I mean, because that might color how we think about it. So, anyway, I'd leave it at that.
I agree with him. I think there should be discussion. That's what I'm saying. Anyway.
Sounds like we're just proving until we have a discussion next month, and then we can make a decision as to when the application can come forward. So I would suggest that we get Kathy, you and me, and we'll meet with them at some point.
Maybe you can give that information back at next council meeting?
Yeah, well, committee of the whole.
Yep.
Okay, so. As I understand it, there's nobody for open forum unless Dan has signed up, no?
No.
Just here listening?
Yeah, just listening.
So we're into section 6. Moved by Councillor Douglas, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Be it resolved that Committee of the Whole recommends that Council approves the updated user fees and charges bylaw to be effective as of January 1, 2017. And is that your lady there, Jane? I think I did pass a comment on to you about that $10 charge that we spent how many hours on and $1,000 worth of staff time on. Is there a way of renaming that or putting an explanation right beside it so we don't have to do it again?
Well, I did check back on all the information that went into when it was looked at a year ago, and I did look at some others across the district, and Bracebridge and Rainhurst has the same name, arrears notice fee, and we do have a description there of what it is sent out for, and basically it's so that those in arrears are absorbing the cost of collecting the arrears, rather than it being spread across the tax base.
So is it a manual type of operation, or is it just automatically spit out of the computer?
Somewhat, but it still has to take a lot of time to run that process and to stuff.
So it's more manual than the regular tax
That's
bills.
involved in getting them.
So I'm just suggesting that be put in the explanation that it's a manual exercise. I'm trying to avoid someone coming to us again and wasting our time, because they'll get turned down for the $10. And I, for one, don't want to spend half an hour or an hour sitting here debating. You know, it's such a silly thing, so.
Two comments. First of all, is $10 enough? And I have this question as to what other municipalities are charging. And secondly, Larry, I think it's up to our discretion. I mean, the man can come and talk for 5 minutes, but other than that, I don't think we should spend any time on it. I think, you know.
We shouldn't, but we did.
Yeah, okay, that's our fault. That's our fault. That's not the system's fault. But my basic question would be whether $10 covers the cost. How many do we have of these? Because that would be an interesting question.
Who's the chair? This was looked at a year ago as well, so I researched that,
Right.
and it's approximately, I think, $28,000 a year that we recoup from this, so it's an awful lot.
So that is,
2,800.
And the survey was done, and the fees range from $3 to $50. And the average is in around 6, 7, and we're at 10, so I think we're a reasonable amount. And I think initially it started out as 15 and then was reduced to 10.
and we've only had a complaint from one person.
I think I complained from time to time, they aren't as bad, I understand, as when it initially went in.
Okay.
From time to time, people complain about it, but when it's explained what it's for, then they okay with that. I've only heard about the one since I started.
Got a few, right?
The what's called the late fee is a penalty for not paying your property taxes on time, and is there an interest associated with that, that carries on beyond the initial fine or whatever you want to call it?
Yes, so what we have, we've got several fees, and one is the actual late charge, and then this is a fee for mailing you the notice to make you, for preparing the notice and mailing the notice out to let you know. So there's the 2 fees levied, and then the interest is carried on.
And is there a grace period put in there where if the tax bill is due on July 1st, is there a 15-day waiting period before you do it? Or I'm just trying to think that some people on fixed incomes and they go paycheck to paycheck, may not receive their money until the 15th of the month or something. I'm just wondering if that's been taken into consideration. I don't see why anybody wouldn't pay on time, because you have months in advance to pay, but I'm just wondering if there is a grace period, is what I'm asking.
It would depend on the due date of when the tax bills are sent out. So council has input on that when we bring a levy bylaw to you for the interim and the final, but typically last year they were due right at the end of the month, and then the interest is applied at the first of the month.
Proactive to the date it was due?
Well, it's pretty much charged almost immediately after the due date. So there is no grace period, but as you were stating, they have ample payment plans they can go on, that they wouldn't fall into the, heavy interest. They
Okay,
have
sure.
some equal installments, so I would think someone in that situation may want to go on that.
Right.
But there is ample notice given, and it's pretty standard, well, we change now, but it's pretty standard, the timings of when they're due each year.
So the appearance of it is like we're, we're levying a fine for not paying on time, but our residents don't understand that if we don't collect that money, we have to go borrow that money to pay it, which there's costs associated with that. Okay, thank you.
I would just make a comment, if we're gonna give a 15-day grace period, I'll be taking it, as will everybody else, so I mean, they're decide when it's due.
That's simply moving the due date. Paul?
On another issue, I see here that we're going to be doubling the fees for building without a permit or a septic system without a permit. So that's fair enough that we're doubling the fees for people to install these systems. I don't see we don't have a fee list for fines. And I don't know how that works, and I guess Nick's not here, maybe somebody can talk to us about fines. That's where we're always concerned about people who do build without a permit, and there's a fine involved, and it's not really all that much, and I guess that's where the controversy comes in. So, does anybody can talk about that?
Through the chair, it's actually a fine that they would then double the permit fee.
Well, okay,
So you could add fine to it.
Other fines are set by the province.
So that's Lori speak.
Lori?
Yes, that's our fee, that's our fine, but the other thing, the fines that you're talking about is when we go to court for it, we charge, and there's a court structure, and that's why Dave's always going looking for a guilty plea the first time, and he goes for no fine, because that's easier to get, and then if he catches you again, then we get bigger fines, but it's a court thing, it's not a bylaw thing for us.
Okay, so we can decide to double or triple or quadruple the cost of the new fee? No?
No.
Can't do that?
You can't, because the municipal act restricts your fees and charges to what it costs us. So we're not to profit on fees, we're to recover costs. So you have to go through the court system to get a true fine, as you're envisioning.
Well, that should be made clear to the public, because they think we could charge whatever we
Yeah.
want, and it goes into a big pot.
We cannot.
Okay. Guess we're done debating.
Just a quick question on that particular determining the cost for us. Is there some rule or structure around determining the cost?
We
Lori?
study.
In theory, you do studies. In reality, you look at what your neighbors are doing and try to come up with a reasonable estimation. You'd have to study it, you'd have to, if you were doing this $10, you'd have to figure out exactly how much time it took you to push the button and sort the envelopes. But you think an envelope costs $1, a stamp costs $1.60, then you stack those. As long as you come up to a reasonable amount that you can defend, then that's fine. But you can't set unreasonably large.
But we could, so we have looked at all our fines and said, we're being paid, or we're recouping our costs. We think we're really.
I would say in a generic sense, not in a process by process specific sense.
Through the chair, I circulated to each department, and they all also look at it, and the ones in the updated bylaw are those that were recommended to increase.
Okay.
So they have been looked at.
Thank you.
Yeah?
So just to clarify, we have, for development charges, we always go out and it's looked at by an independent third party. But any of these others, we simply do a sort of we look at what others do, and
You're reasonable.
I would have said the $10 is probably on the low side, but, let's not put it up at this point.
Okay. So I'll call the question. Anybody need the resolution read again? Just to approve the communication charges bylaw. All those in favor? Carries. Moved by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Douglas. Be it resolved, the Committee of the Whole recommends to Council that the remuneration for the Committee of Adjustment non-council members remain at $100 / be blank dollars per meeting paid biannually. I guess I have to fill in the blank or stroke $100 up. Is that how it goes? Okay, so there is a report. I haven't gone down to that on the agenda. Who wrote the report?
Your worship, it was the Director of Finance, but it came up for a couple of reasons. We were talking about it at a previous COW, and a couple of members of the Committee of Adjustment were talking about how we were paying them, so we just wanted to educate council of how we pay them and why, and we took the opportunity to do that to see what our neighbors pay them and make sure that we're current.
So it's my understanding that some of the members drive to see some of the sites, either by car, some are going out by boat, and so there's costs out of their pockets associated with it, but the $100 comes as a salary and is taxed. So theoretically, the $100 becomes $70 or something like that, and then they gotta take their car expenses out of it also, so they're almost doing it for nothing or giving to the municipality in addition to all the time they spend. So I don't know whether the committee wants to give them a little bit more, or unfortunate it can't be just called travel expense. But you say CRA says that it's an income. Peter?
Maybe I missed something here, but is the CRA saying we can't allow also to have a travel expense?
No, that would be a reimbursement of an expense, so
Right.
that would be in addition to the income.
So if we wanted to change this, another way of doing it would be to keep it at 100 and say, and because you have to go and visit places, you get an additional $50 to accommodate that.
Well, through the chair, no, it would be a reimbursement, I would suspect, our rate times the kilometers.
So they'd have to, you couldn't give them an allowance.
Yeah.
You can't, so it has to be specific, you can't give them an allowance, just a blanket allowance, an additional.
That's income as well. So you would effectively, if you wanted to do that, you'd increase the rate.
Huh?
The history on that is allowances used to be allowed until somewhere in the mid-80s, and then CRA realized the amount of abuse that was going on, so you get forced back into per kilometer charge.
So, I'm just concerned. So if we were to make some sort of allowance for travel expenses, we're opening up a very large issue here because there's all sorts of travel and committee work, et cetera, that people aren't covered for, tons of it. And I don't know what to say about that, and that's a much broader issue from my perspective. If you do it in this particular case, then what are you doing elsewhere?
Cynthia?
Thank you. I think there was some concerns raised at the committee, in regards to how this was being, taxed, or how this was being remitted to them on their chief warrants. Could you get that, and was that resolved? Because
There was responses in the report that it was looked at before, and yes, our auditors suggested, and CRA as well, that it is chief ward is income, and there's a specific box that has to
so it has to continue the way it's going.
Correct.
Okay. So the only thing I can say from just conversations that the committee has had in my presence is, getting some sort of reimbursement for the money spent on travel. That perhaps the only way to do that is if council's goal is to increase their fee slightly to maybe accommodate that, although it would be taxed.
Correct. The options are increase the rate or do the mileage reimbursement.
I think mileage reimbursement, in my opinion, would cause a lot of on staff extra time.
Mm.
So I would be more leaning and inclined to look at an increase in fees personally.
I think that they should be able to, if they're reporting the income, they should be able to claim mileage related to these items on their tax return. I say theoretically, you should be able to do that. But you gotta be reasonable on that. My suggestion again, I support Cynthia. I would be curious as to whether anybody said, I'm not taking the job because of the amount of money, and I suspect the answer is probably no. But I agree with increasing the amount, because I would say the vast majority of these people are putting in a lot more time than is recorded, because we have some pretty contentious things always come to just so. What is the deal of staff with regard to this? I mean, I don't know what would happen in other parts of the C.O.W. Do they have as complex issues as we do? No, but, sorry.
The staff's not going to speak up, okay, Brian?
The comparators that we were giving shows that we are at the top of the scale. And nobody in Muskoka or surrounding areas get more money than our community adjustments, from what I read. If you're going to increase the amount due to travel expenses, the counselors that sit on that will also be doing that same amount of traveling, and they can't claim anything for travel expenses at all. So I think you're on a little bit of a slippery slope here, where you're offering some people some incentives to travel and other people's not. I just want everybody to be aware that this isn't across the board, it's just for the members of the public.
Okay. Remember, you get 1/3 of your money tax-free.
That's for
expenses.
Oh, yeah.
We'll keep believing.
My question was more.
You keep convincing me of that.
Was more to do with the complexity of the issues that we see, as opposed to the amount that's being paid. So, any thoughts?
I might just jump in there. I agree with what Councillor Edwards is saying. Being in this township, and from what I understand from speaking with committee members, we are so very spread out. You get some of these applications that are today. We have committee members that actually get in their boats and take half a day to go out to these areas. And this is something that other areas I don't think experience quite as often as we would. So I think that partly formed part of the conversation that came up at some point. And I think you're correct. I don't think anyone would not take the job, but probably would be appreciated an increase to perhaps absorb some of those costs. Because I think where that was coming from.
You can recover these costs through the fee for minor variance, correct? So it really doesn't come out of the tax base. So, nobody's put a figure out. Well, I was going to throw an extra $25 on it.
I was thinking $101.
$101 extra?
No, total.
Oh. Don't insult me.
No, I think you're right. I think a $25 increase would be appropriate. It's not going to cover the cost of their travel. It's a token, is what it is.
Yeah, and I was just going to suggest, and not normally it's generous, but anyway, I was going to suggest 150, because it is a indication to our volunteer members that we recognize that what they're doing is way more expensive than $150. I can guarantee you, especially anybody that's traveling some distance, like our seasonal resident members. So I think I would be more inclined for $50 times 5 times those meetings. It's not a huge amount of money, and then we must have a way to recoup that. So
through the fee for minor variance.
So I think it would be, just because we're at that highest point, I think we, as Cynthia points out, we are quite different than most areas. Most people are going to be able to drive 15 minutes or 10 minutes and see something if they need to see it, but that's not how it works here. So I think we are exceptional in that respect. So.
Well, I was going to be more generous. I mean, these may be fine for what the other municipalities are paying wonder what a place like Toronto or Mississauga pays for this. I mean, you know, I mean,
100,000 a year.
well, no, I don't know, but, you know, I mean, anyway,
I can support 50 myself. You were talking more?
I would have gone, well, let's try 50, but $25 I think is more reasonable, so I'll go with 50.
3 at 50?
Well, I'm just wondering, I know that there's two public members that do quite a bit of site inspection, but I'm not aware of the other public members that do any site inspection, so I'm just trying to find out, maybe some people on the committee can tell us who does them and who doesn't. I know, we can play that game about certain people should deserve it and other people don't deserve it. But, do all the members go out, or like? Okay.
Yeah, I think on occasion you do get it more.
Howard?
Well, I just happen to know that, for example, David Matthews, who's on the committee, is going out on his boat and has to run around, and it's quite expensive, so. Sorry, did I make you up?
No, your worship called Lori and you started speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So call you Lori.
Sounds like Peter anyway.
I didn't realize. I just jumped in.
It's not your fault, it runs.
No, it wasn't. Go ahead, Peter.
I was just gonna say, I think it's slippery slope. You want to pay all of them the same. I've sat through council meetings, not here, where council has discussed who reads their agenda package and who doesn't, and who should make what. You know, whatever goes there. Decide on the fee and pay everybody the same.
So, sounds like I can stick $150 in here.
I don't think you're gonna get any kickback from it, Joe. It's only 12 times a year,
How many, we have 5 public members or 4?
5. And they have to attend the meeting, so.
Perhaps we should add an effective date of January 1, 2017. I think that's missing from my motion. Or whichever date you wish. Thank you.
Why couldn't you do it December 1? I would suggest doing December 1, I mean, it's,
To the next one. But this won't get passed until council next month. This is a recommendation to council, the January.
Effectively,
fair enough.
Christmas time.
Okay, so we've inserted $150 per meeting paid biannually and effective January 1, 2017. Any further discussion? And Jane, you may want to revisit the fees and charges bylaw.
I would have to pass that to Nick to have a look at it. Unfortunately, he's not here today to speak to that. We'll have him have a look and just report back if there's anything further.
Because what we just passed is a recommendation to council, and certainly that can be amended at the next council meeting, so.
Are you saying that the $100 now comes out of the variance fee?
It'll be part of it.
in theory.
In theory, yeah.
Well, so it should be neutral for the taxpayers.
In theory. In theory.
Well, it shouldn't be more than 30, including the tax.
You're not the judge.
It's factored in, okay? Okay, so I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. So, next one is moved by Councillor Douglas, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Be it resolved, the Committee of the Whole recommends to Council that the updated property tax collection policy 2013-05 be approved. Mr. Bailiwick again?
updates to the tax policy are required as a result of the move from 4 installments to 2. So it's a bit of a housekeeping exercise, and at the same time we had a look at it. There's 3 other recommendations as well, which are outlined in the report. Like me to start now?
Sure.
So the first one is, it said that third-party checks would not be accepted, but that's not really an issue anymore, so we thought we would delete that and just use staff discretion as more and more payments are made electronically. We're not presented with many third-party checks. The second or the third change is to shift the authority to write off amounts under $5 from myself to the accounting clerk, just to improve efficiency. And then the fourth one is that late charges and interest will no longer be at my discretion. It will only be as a result of errors, gross errors, assessment change to a council's discretion. That passes judgment onto me and kind of muddies the policy in the first place. So they're all up for discussion and input.
I had a bit of a first question that I had from before. Is there any possibility that we could give people a little bit of incentive to pay us by electronically?
Never seen it done.
Well, think about it, because it saves us a lot of time.
I believe more and more are moving to it, and we have it in each of the EU.
I realize that, but I just wonder. But on this one, the only concern I have is it would be nice to know how much these things total in the year, so that we have some idea as to the magnitude of any write-ups.
So what are you thinking, a cash reimbursement or
No,
brownie points or what?
okay, I've jumped ahead. I was asking the question whether you got an incentive, but then on with regard to the collection policy and the write-off of minor amounts, does our accounting system capture that?
Yes.
Okay, all I would like to see is a report once a year as to how much has been written off. And it isn't just with regard to this item, but there will be other items where I think we should have a yearly reporting. It's what good accounting would do, and it basically is a way for everybody's oversight to be dealt with. So we're not, if we don't know the magnitude, it's very dangerous to just.
Does that form part of our budget at all?
The amount would certainly be in there.
There's a line in there for tax write-off, and I think the amount is in around the $35,000 mark or so for about a year, and that includes small write-offs as well as any that would be a result of assessment or.
Okay,
So is that enough of a reporting?
well, no, but again, within that, the assessment ones, we don't have any control over it. Those are determined by MPAC. I would like to, is there any way we can split that out? And I don't want to create a lot of work. Is there any way that we can code those so that they're slightly different, and that we can say, okay, we wrote up $2,000 because of $5 items or $10 items or whatever?
Lord?
I'm not familiar with the processes here, but I was just doing a recommendation for the school board and the district of the write-off, so we can provide that to council once a year.
Yeah.
So it would show what we've written off for different categories of assessment and then with the line balance. So I think we're already doing that, just for everyone else. We do it for our own.
As long as we report it back to council, I think we've all done our fiduciary responsibility. Okay.
Cynthia, you had a
I
question?
know, I just wanted to say to what Pat was saying, it would be interesting, I think, for us to know what we're working off on the small amounts, because that maybe perhaps is more than what we think. The other ones we don't have a control on, but if it's already in there, then.
Yeah, I mean, the one that sort of,
It's a $5
made me sit up was when they mentioned $28,000 on the notice, or whatever, which one was, you know, I said, oh, you know, it's the, you know, you take a small number by a large number, and it's serious dollars.
Through the chair, we are this is just shifting it from meeting.
I totally understand.
But we can attempt to provide that, see what the system can do for us.
Okay. Any other questions? I think I've already read this.
Just approve it.
So, call the question, all those in favor? That carries. The next resolution is moved by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Douglas. Be it resolved, the Committee of the Whole recommends to Council that the accounts receivable collection policy FN-01-2016 be approved. Is your bailiwick again? Oh, yours. Okay, good. Lead on.
Okay, as the report says, we currently don't have an approved policy. So the current policies have been laid out in the report, and they have been working quite fine. The one piece that's in the procedures, the recommended procedures, is we don't really have a vehicle to use to go after those that we cannot collect. Typically what ends up happening is we go through the year-end process, we end up writing them off. They're not big amounts. We're talking in the hundreds, we're not talking in the thousands. We don't have any general receivable as of that time.
Again, my only comment is, if this could be just on the same report you were talking about before, and it's there to protect people in the accounting staff, plus for us to do our part role with regard to governance. That's my only.
Cynthia?
So, just to be clear, I think you're asking for a policy to be put in place where you pursue those small amounts? Okay, yeah. Well, fair enough, because it could be a large amount when we put the numbers together.
And any that are written up, we will be aware, will be, rather than just having it in the financial statements, it'll be a report that's coming back that will identify or summarize these things for you.
Any other questions? I will call the question. All those in favor? Carries. Next item is moved by Councillor Douglas, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole receives the third quarter financial statement for the period ending September 30th, 2016. Lean again?
I really don't have anything further to add to what's in the report.
Yeah. So, committee, questions, comments? Pat?
Just a question, Gene, have you noticed anything in our accounting system, et cetera, that you would be suggesting we do a different way based on, the various systems you've seen over your career?
Through the chair, thank you for that question, actually. I have not. I've been very impressed with everything here. In fact, the processes and the staff, again, I'm very impressed with, not only in the department, it's a well-oiled, dedicated, lean department, but the cooperation from management as well. It's real, I'm very impressed. I've been making small little changes here and there, but nothing huge to the process. The reconciliations are done on a very timely basis, and the accounts are very up to date and current. Very, very good.
And one of the things I've found in my long history in the financial area, I used to, my audit days, find people where you'd ask them why they did something. They said, I don't know, I've done this for the last 25 years. I just want to make make sure that we don't have any of those types of things, which frequently occur in the accounting world, so that we are getting it. And, you know, if somebody says, well, why are we doing this? Well, you know, the answer shouldn't be, well, that's because that's the way we've always done it. It should be, let's look at it and see if there is some reason. So,
Through the chair, it is good to look with fresh eyes. The former treasurer left to be with a great foundation, but I have found small little things here and there to improve efficiencies, such as how we transfer monies between bank accounts. So it's definitely being looked at in all things that come.
Paul?
At this time of year, when you complete the third quarter, it's an indication if we're going to be on budget, over budget, or under budget this year. Is there any forecast as to where we might end up end of the year?
Based on my analysis while I was putting this report together, it looks like we're going to be on budget. I'm not seeing anything that indicates how we're going to be.
And there's no surplus, you don't see any surplus in the future?
That's a little bit harder to establish until we get back a little bit further towards the end of the quarter.
Further questions? Call the question. All those in favor? Carries. Next resolutions moved by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Douglas. Be it resolved that Committee of the Whole recommends Council direct staff to contact CP regarding the blockage of the Stewart Lake Road by southbound trains. So Pat, I think you put this on, there was
yeah, I
an
mean,
email.
I had that request from Louise, and just to bring everybody up to date who wasn't on council last term, when Hunter Harrison became the CEO of CP, after he had, whipped CN into shape, one of the things that they did was they want to run longer trains and therefore, and just generally increase efficiency. So I know they talked about trains of between 14,000 and 17,000 feet, which is, 3 miles worth of train. And so that's the reason that we've got the Maple Street underpass in Mactier. But we've also, and the issue is fire and ambulance. But we've also got Stewart Lake, and what's happening is southbound trains are fine. They can stop to get a coffee, I suspect is what they're stopping for. And the south end of the train doesn't bother anybody. It's the north ones coming south, when they stop to get a coffee, they're so long they block the Stewart Lake Road. And as I learned yesterday, the only length of time you're supposed to be able to block things is for 5 minutes. I would hope they don't have to block for any minutes. And I think it's just a question that CP management probably isn't even aware of this issue. I'll turn it over to the fire chief for his comments on that.
Through you, Chair, I'll be in contact with CP Rail, as Councillor Edwards has alluded to. There's a 5 minutes that that's the rules, the federal rules, and we can't change the federal rules. So they have 5 minutes to block a crossing, unless it's something that's out of the ordinary and out of their control, a broken down train or an emergency of some sort, whatever. So some of the people up there, I don't want to deal with residents that utilize Stewart Lake Road, so that, because they'll have the facts, and they're going to, as we investigate it and start to pull the statistical information and the complaints forward, there's a good possibility that CP Rail is going to want to talk to them so that they can isolate, I'm going to say, incidents where this has happened. So at that point, we would be taking that to CP Rail and say, at this date, this time, this happened, it was blocked for 20 minutes, or 5 minutes, and we'll see what the size of the concern, that's there. Is it going to be a crucial, or is it they're blocking their 5 minutes and so forth? At that point, I'll bring it to CP Rail so that they can investigate it and look at their procedures and so forth, and if they have to make adjustments or do some retraining or something, that's CP Rail's business to do.
Just on that point, can we put that on our various communication items, Lori, so that people in McKinney, Stewart Lake know that we are looking at the issue and ask them to report in any times and length of times they were blocked in Stewart Lake? I suspect this is a coffee issue. I mean, that's my suspicion.
Right?
CP Rail has their own police and they have their own law enforcement. I'm wondering if it's worth getting in touch with them as well and have them investigate their own actions.
Through you, the Chair, I will be in contact with them. Currently, Randy Marshall was the CP representative for, that would deal with council, has retired. So I'm waiting for the new person to fill that position, and then I'll be bringing the issue with them and then seeing where they want it to go. Do they want it to go to the policing? But we'll try to do the proper communication protocol and then go from there.
I'll send you the new fellow's name that's replaced Randy.
Okay.
Lori?
I just wanted to go back to what Councillor Edwards asked. I think the more appropriate mechanism is to go back to the Northern Policing Committee and have it. I don't want to put it in our e-news or something that suggests that we have control over an issue that we don't if we start looking for complaints and that we can't satisfy. I don't think that works, but I think Tony's has been working with residents and the community policing is probably the way to get that word out, where you can be clear that we're gathering information, but and working with CP, but it's not an issue that we have total control over. I think we'll be careful with that message.
I would suggest we get the gentleman replacing Randy involved and let him run with it, rather than us taking the lead, ending up with all kinds of complaints, because it's not our bailiwick, so to speak, but we can certainly initiate the discussion.
Yeah, and for the most part, all we're going to be is that relay person from the resident to CP Rail.
It's my understanding if the train is going to be parked there for more than 5 minutes, they're supposed to send someone down to split the train and open up the crossing, and then when they're ready to roll on, they back up and they pick up the other cars and carry on. But sometimes it takes more than 5 minutes, and probably all the time, to run 3 miles worth of train past the intersection, but it's when it's stopped for 5 minutes solid. And there's supposed to be signs on either side with a phone number, and most people have cells now. They can actually call that number and say the train's been stopped here for the last 7 minutes. And at that point, they're supposed to contact the engineer, and the engineer is supposed to send someone down to get it opened up. Cynthia?
I think I would agree with Lori on the communication aspect. Perhaps Chief Van Dam, as part of our committee, could possibly, when he's attending one of our meetings, just come back with correspondence on that. We're very fortunate at the policing committee in the north there that we have quite a few of the community, as I would want to say, leaders that are a part of the committee, and one of them actually lives on the other side of the tracks down on Stewart Lake. So I think the word would be best gone through the policing committee. I think that would be quite appropriate. The word would get out then through Chief Van Dam.
You know, good?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, Your Worship, that there was some concern about the emergency plan and what we would be doing. I'll let you know that we are currently working on that. CP Rail's emergency plan, it's CP Rails, they're regulated by the federal government. We're not going to get that information. I will get certain confidential information, but I will not be able to release that due to their confidentiality agreement and so forth that they all have. But I will let you know that we are reviewing our emergency plan, and we plan to meet with CP Rail. I believe it's coming up that I'll be inviting the mayor and the CAO to sit down in that meeting, and you'll be able to hear those comments as well.
Brian?
Chief, what's currently being done if you have a fire on the far side of the tracks or a medical emergency, and you roll up with your rescue vehicle and you're sitting there for 15 minutes, do you have a contact where you would call into CP and say, we have an emergency, can you get this train on the way?
Yes, we do. We currently are, our dispatch has the numbers for CP Rail right into the CP police, who are in contact with the dispatching for the trains, and they can give an order to do something very quickly.
Well,
I'm concerned that you said that the CP have emergency plans that they may not share with us, because I find that a little strange. I think all emergency plans should be kind of somewhat public knowledge, to at least get some basics as to what they're going to do in the case of emergency, but being confidential about it, that kind of worries me. You want to elaborate on that one?
I can explain to you that even the township's emergency plan is not all released to the public. There's parts of it that are confidentiality, and that we maintain that, and that's for the sake of terrorism and so forth, that you're protecting. So if a terrorist, for example, knows what your response is going to be, they set to delay that response or hinder that response and so forth. So all of that is taken and it is kept under wraps, shall we say. And every emergency situation is going to be different. You could have a train derailment there that we want people to stay indoors, do not come outdoors, or we may be at the point where we need to do an evacuation. All of that has been looked at, and we have procedures that we will follow, but we don't release that out.
Okay, basically a follow-up. So you would be able to find out and be convinced that they have appropriate emergency plans in place for scenarios that would be relevant to MAC here. Is that a proper statement?
That's what should happen when I meet with the emergency response person here in a couple of weeks.
Cynthia?
Thank you. Chief Sundance, is there a possibility, because I know where Councillor Wayne was going with this, is there a possibility at some point that some sort of assurance or some part of that plan could be discussed with the public, that is public knowledge, to give them some feeling of security that we do have something in place? Because that question's going to come up, well, what if, what do we do, and how do we know we're going to contact? I mean, there's a huge gap there, I think, from what they know now and what they might want to know, and what they should know, from what you're saying.
CP Rail has a public relations unit, staff, and all that would be most likely more than willing to come out and do a presentation to the citizens of MAC here. It's not something that this council is going to have any control over. All that, their emergency plan is regulated by the federal government, Transport Canada, and so forth. So there's not a whole lot that we have control over. But CP Rail is I'm going to say a respected company within the rail business, and they have the people that can come out and do public relations.
I can be supplement to that. I agree with what you're saying, and I think it would be very good if we could set something up and perhaps we can talk about that. And I agree, it is a respected company, but it also is a company that has La Fuente attached to it as well. So I think that it would be very prudent if we could get somebody else, through the prison committee to do a meeting with the Massachusetts community. It would really relieve a lot of, questioning at this point.
Yeah, and unfortunate for, in what's happened in Quebec,
Yeah.
but that has drawn a lot of new regulations that have come forward that they have to meet now, so all of that, is all part of it. So, but we can let CP Rail defend their position, I'm not here to defend
Oh,
it.
no, right, thank you.
Yeah, I don't like the fact that we're trusting CP Rail. They're very much like, you're in good hands with Allstate, you know, and there's where you end up. The number of people that died in Lac-Mégantic, and CP has got some of the responsibility for this. I don't trust, you know, they just want to make maximum profits. I think that the community needs to be involved. Now, it may be that we are not the ones that will work for the community, but if I were living beside those train tracks, I want to know what's going down the train tracks, and I want to make sure that we've got as much information as possible. Just saying that, oh, well, CP, they're wonderful people, and, you know, sorry, it doesn't cut it for me, not after the number of people that died in Lac-Mégantic.
So we'll work on that. Nathan Cato is his name. I sent you the email address and the name, so.
Thank you.
And we'll take an action from the policing committee to have something maybe next spring or something like that, where maybe you can talk to him and see if he's available sometime next spring, and maybe have a community, presentation on some kind of plan.
It's CP Rail, I can tell you that in their emergency plan, that the municipality and the local fire service, police service, and that is what is in control of that incident. They're there to support us, however, they have to meet their federal, regulations. Living beside the train tracks, obviously, there's risk associated with living that close to the train tracks, and we'll do our best to mitigate the issue and make it as safe as possible.
So we'll call the question on this one. All those in favor? That carries. Got one more here, moved by Councillor Douglas, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Be it resolved that Committee of the Whole does now adjourn at 10:15 a.m. until Monday, December 5th, 2016, following council or at the call of the chair. All those in favor? And that carries. So we'll take a 5 minutes and then we'll call back into council to finish our closed session.
Why we trust CP, I really don't understand. I knew you did.
I heard you talking out, and I was like, yeah, no, I need to.
Presentation, session, ask your question.
Well, yes, but I think we are supposed I'm not picking on you, but I'm talking about you and me.
The other one that's got to be satisfied, that you can actually handle something up there with their support, and they're gonna be behind you when it happens.
The rest will come in, and one of your meetings. We'll plan it several months out, so that the word gets out there.
Is all that,
But you want them to be on board, how something happens.
But I think there should be full transparency from CP standpoint. Otherwise, if the people don't feel to be played with, next thing you'll know, you'll have the truck blocked. That's the way it's going. what you think, we're the representatives of the people.
Oh, no, it's not.
Yeah, oh, I hear what I don't agree with.
Well, I thought the main issue was control. It doesn't matter where the building is, do it. Yeah, boy.
So maybe I'll send an email or some address, where it's going.
Yeah, well, if you call Harrison, whatever the address, I believe you can send it to Maxwell.
All right.
Maybe send it out, yeah. Well, exactly. Call over me, and I said, well, yeah. No, he's given us permission to move it, and that's our responsibility, but it doesn't have to be moved. Yeah, it may be sitting on temporary footing. Yeah, it's still a little kind of ugly when it arrives, but it's still more, foundation plus it's in, there's another group of okay, thank you.
There's a few things that I'm still having to carry on till I determine.
But we all learn from the experience that we went into, and that's the beauty of it.
I want to go through a year and a few things, and then, so, a few things, carry on for now, and then, once we get through budgeting year end, a few, and I know even the reconciliation. Breathing here. I'm not looking to do them in detail, but, so maybe that's, I want to see that we just.
Well, and understand them.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Initially, I did want to see them actually for. I'm just focused on public sector jobs, so I'm not really paying attention to some of it either.
And I understand why you stay on the trash because it makes so much sense.
Me too.
I'll be back with you.
Well, and, I just want people all, and with it, I understand it's you know much, but I want people
Sherry, fortunately, got to, I didn't realize that.
But, you know, we've had a number of disasters in various parts of the world, various big corporations. Union Carbide, if you remember, basically went out of business because of that whole thing. And, you know, yeah, exactly, yeah, that's my issue.
I don't know, I'm how, you know, what's being done about it, correct, but it's where it's going, and, you know, they need to look at it.
Okay, sounds good, yeah. Oh, it's gonna be an early day.
Well, I gave a report, or I gave 60th, right? Yeah, but even you don't know what that was, I only presented it to council, right? Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, I think so. But I'm sure you can wait till noon, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well. You know, it's right.
Yeah.
Too bad. I was gonna say, Bruce Bridge and Granger's no one violent in their township as well, but I think it was my place. You know, there's quite a bit.
Right.
Not a lot. Well, not Granger's does, yeah, because Granger's comes far up, Lake Muskoka.
You know who would have is, no, is,
Yeah, Muskoka Lake's at the time.
yeah, but I'm talking, outside of the district is, oh my God, down towards,
Oh, yeah.
Down the line.
Yeah.
They're comparative kids, they've got the, what is that?
Huge Brownie Island, you see them Muskoka Lakes are great, so they, I think, underestimate how many islands there are in Lake Muskoka. That have settlements and people always pushing the planning. That's really pushing. So I was kind of glad, I thought that was maybe a bit of where it was good, so I should get that information myself. Oh,
yeah.
Or no, they're gonna come back out and report in open, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if they need to put that noise machine on?
Oh, yes, we should, yeah.
Just in case it's not stuck.
Warming the shovel up. Okay. Moved by Councillor Douglas, seconded by Councillor Edwards, be resolved that council adopt bylaw 2016-100, being a bylaw confirming the proceedings of the November 14th and 15th, 2016 council meeting. All those in favor? Carries. Moved by Councillor Rienko, seconded by Councillor Edwards, be it resolved that council does now adjourn at 11:02 a.m. until Monday, December 5th, 2016 at 9 a.m. or at the call of the chair. All those in favor? That carries. Thanks very much, everyone.
We for a moment.